Hell yeah.
Hell to the
Is
yeah.
hell yeah. Is that a slur?
What? Hell yeah.
Not slur. Is that like derogatory? Like you know how they YouTube get angry at you. Is this a Christian podcast? Yeah, I don't think so.
It's not a Christian podcast. Christians are not welcome. I'm kidding.
This is a pagan podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, what the fuck was that? That's gonna get you in trouble.
Yeah, no Christians allowed. I edited the title, but no Christians allowed. Everyone loves Redfall.
Yeah.
Vampire cults only. We're now a vampire cult, everyone.
Yeah.
We're in full support of vampires, and we feel like they should have the right to vote.
I mean, that's fair as long as you're not, killing people.
Oh no, yeah. Most of the time they're voting for like vampires to be in power, which will enslave the human race. But I still think
what, like vampire fascism.
Yeah, exactly. But I still think that it's fine. I think.
I'm not seeing many reasons, and for that reason, I think we should maybe go into the show.
If someone offered to turn you into a vampire, would you do it? Would you take them up on eternity? You don't age. Your family has it too. Beth and Fox, little babu vampire.
I don't think so. No, it's a bit too risky, man. I don't know what that means. I don't know what comes
square, with. Dude. Such.
I don't know what. It's not like will you come out to party on Saturday? It's like will you and your family take vampirism or not?
It's such a risk. So, what happens to my pension?
Yeah. Where does my financial stability go? I suppose your currency would be blood, though.
You're just not the same. The old deck would have been like, make me a vampire. Oh, anyway.
Are we jingling? Are
we? We are Yep. Yes, we are.
Sick. Hi everyone, welcome to the 93rd episode of the Quick Resume podcast. My name's Deck. That's Tim over there. Say hi, Tim.
Mm-hmm. Hello. I didn't expect that to be so quick. I was joking.
I thought I'd switch it up this time. And we've got a nice and lean episode for you today. It's nice and lean. I like it when I get to say that. It's a lean episode. But it's two things essentially I want to talk about. There's the nitty gritty stuff, but fuck it. We're in control of our own destiny. We get to chart our own path through the forest, and that's what we're going to do today. So it's essentially Redfall impressions, Redfall controversy about it not coming to PS5. Suddenly everyone cares. I thought everybody hated that game. Now everybody insists it should be coming to other consoles. But hey, that's fine. Come back around to that. And obviously, the CMA, UK regulator, saying that they don't feel that the ABK deal, is going to be substantially lessening competition anymore. A big surprise that. Well, I mean, it is a surprise, but that conclusion isn't the surprise. Anyway, so Tim, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Pretty decent week. The work's been pretty stable, pretty nice, not too busy. Played a few games. I've essentially finished Overwatch Battle Pass now. I'm like level 75, and I've got
you've done great.
11th of April, so got that down, sorted. I might try and see if I can wrap it up today with just like the dailies and maybe a weekly thrown in there, and double XP, just wrap it up.
Wonderful.
And apart from that, I've been playing Midnight Suns. I did buy the season pass for that because I saw it was on discount. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Because I do want to play all those characters. So they've got Deadpool was the first one, then it was Venom, then they've just released Morbius, and then they've got Storm coming as the final character, which I think will be next month. They've basically been doing them month by month. So, and they all look really cool and really fun. So, and they come with their own little storylines and missions. So it's just a bit of fun.
I was lining up as well,
What? I mean, I think you'll technically have it because I bought it on the store and it comes as like its own thing. So I think you'll have the season pass. I think
maybe. I usually just assume that season passes and stuff like that won't work as game share. I think there are some outliers, aren't there? But I just assume for the most part they're not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, have a look, but but yeah, I'm still really enjoying that game. I was playing it quite a lot yesterday, and actually I just unlocked another character to like add to the roster to play, and I'm like 40 hours in, and I'm still unlocking characters to play.
Is it a spoiler?
Yeah, it's kind of a spoiler. I could give a spoiler.
It's not someone who's on the cover art.
Let you know. No, I think they are on the cover art.
Okay, maybe it's not worth it. Well, because I don't want to be spoiled, but if it's on the cover art, then I'll know.
Because you're like the game very much is like it's one of those do you don't you like on a knife's edge. Like what do you do? And I don't know. There could be multiple paths. There could be a path that you take that leads not to you actually having that as a playable character. So I'll stop. But it's a cool character, and I'm excited to use it. I'm refraining from using any pronouns here.
God,
and yeah,
so progressive.
I'm still enjoying that. That's great fun. I actually started Resident Evil 2 this morning, which is
very
great.
nice.
Game I've already got like 5 achievements on it, and yeah, it's good, man. It's like really like atmospheric. And I picked Leon to play through the first time with, and yeah, I've kind of always had that on my backlog, and I thought with Overwatch done, and I'm not really playing much else outside of like Midnight Suns because like I mean Valheim will hop on when the whole group gets on, but that's not going to be consistent. So I was just like, I'm kind of actually only playing like one game, and like releases
a nice feeling.
Yeah, it is actually. And releases start to only flood through around like May, June, July time. That's when we're going to really get swamped with the game. So I was thinking like this is the perfect time to just chug through the Resident Evils. And they're only like 8 hours a piece. You know, they're actually quite short. So yeah, that's been my week of gaming. What about you?
It's wonderful. It's very diverse. Yeah, I've been playing some Overwatch, been playing some Halo.
There's like a new fracture in Halo at the moment, isn't it? I was actually the armor looks pretty cool. I was actually looking to maybe see if I can blitz it. I heard it's like one that you can do by just playing as well. It's really easy.
They're all like that now. They're all like that. Yeah, they have like limited time modes, but they don't force you into that mode. Like, because the one at the moment is a free for all one, but they don't force you into it. It's just like play game. Basically, it's just like play game. Nice. Actually, I took a screenshot the other day. I meant to put it on Twitter, but I had 3 challenges, and they were all just different numbers of win any PvP match.
Okay. Do you think they
challenge
should
system is great now?
What Overwatch has done recently, which I really like, where they're like, do this, do that, play a game, but wins double it. Like, I think that was really cool. I think that's a really cool idea.
Yes,
to just be like play 10 games, but wins count as 2. Like,
yeah,
that's.
I mean,
like,
there
really
are
cool.
there are some challenges which are like get 3 wins or something. Yeah, but I see your point.
But
yeah,
just like the whole thing,
like that.
just be like play or win is double. Like I think that's pretty cool because it's like it's really easy to just sit there and play, but then it's also incentivizes you to try and win as much as possible.
Yeah. You also do get bonus XP for like you get performance XP. And I don't think you've seen it, but you get bonus XP for like if you're in the top 50%, if you win the match, if you're MVP, you get like a bonus 100 XP as well. So
is that just
if you have a really good game, you can just Battle Pass obviously. Yeah. But you can get like an extra 300 on top of what you normally would if you have like a good game and are on the winning team. So yeah, I'm with you. I like that. I do like that sort of stuff. I think it's always good, especially for team games where you're incentivized to win rather than do extra specific thing X.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So playing those 2, and out of absolutely nowhere, I don't think I've spoken about it on the podcast. Maybe I have, like when we first started or something. But like I've been wanting to play GTA 5 for ages. I had it on the 360 on disc, and I played it for a bit. I'd never played the GTA before. I don't know. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I like I saw the good reviews at the time, and I don't think I got that far into the story. Maybe like 5-10 hours, and just did a lot of pissing around. But having since played Red Dead 2, when that came out, I was like, oh, Rockstar are very good at writing, like really good, like not just for games, like in entertainment as a whole. And I really, really liked Red Dead 2. So I've been wanting to buy GTA 5 and go back for a while, and they announced the remake last year or something, and I always said this to Tim, like they're so fucking stupid with how they. It's Take Two, isn't it, Rockstar? Yeah, how they do their deals and stuff, because like you couldn't buy GTA. Like whenever they did a deal, it was like, here's the super deluxe edition with 60 million shark cards, and it's down 120 quid down to 100. And it's like, that's not what I'm. It's pointless. It's not a saving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a saving, but in reality, it's a fucking upsell. They're upselling.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's an illusion.
Yeah.
So that's been going on for like 8 years, and I've never gotten the opportunity to actually buy it. And it's like never in Game Pass, I don't think it has been anyway. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, because I know Red Dead 2 wasn't there for a little bit, so I don't know.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a while back. It was in there for a little bit. So the game was on sale for like down to like £12, I think. So I was like, wow, you know what? I haven't bought a game on Xbox in a long time. I might just buy this or just have it, because it's probably not going to be Game Pass, probably not going to go down this deep again, at least for a while, And then, man, I had to go through the whole rope-a-dope of trying to figure out like where the fuck, like what edition I'm buying. It was so stupid. Like, because what they've done is they've made GTA Online the launcher, and they've made the story mode a DLC for that launcher. Man, it was so confusing. Yeah, and I bought the edition, but I already had a version of GTA installed. So when I booted it up, it auto booted into the old version. And I was like, this is a bit dated. And then about half an hour in, I was like, I'm just gonna double check. Booted it up. Turned out I was on the non-Series X and S version. So I had to restart, and I was like, oh yeah, it looks a lot better. It was like proper reflections, good lighting, and all of that, all upscaled. I was like, oh, this is a lot better. Man, it was just such a ridiculous process. But anyway, now I've played about probably only 3 or 4 hours, but yeah, no, I've been enjoying that so far. The good writing is still there as expected. So yeah, I'm just gonna sort of chip away at that. It's just like something I was kind of feeling. I just kind of wanted to play a bit of a story.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Moment.
Yeah, I like GTA 5. Yeah, it's pretty decent.
So yeah, that's been me. I think that's been everything. I suppose we can segue into the first kind of honourable mention. The only other thing that I have sort of dipped my toes in this week, I have played a little bit of Valheim, but moving on, was the Mighty Doom, which you hadn't heard of until I mentioned it yesterday.
I've never heard of that. No,
that's crazy. Can I just double check before we go any further, Tim? Am I definitely coming through this? Do I sound good? Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. I mean, tap it for me.
Okay. Sorry, audio listeners.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you are.
That's looking right. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, and it's like if you didn't know, it's like you're like a chibi Doom guy. It's like you just go through chambers. It's like top down. It's an auto shooter, so it just shoots at whoever, like based on proximity. But you control the movement, and you can swap weapon. You have like abilities on cooldown. Like to start with, you have your rocket launcher that will fire out. And it's kind of like a roguelite. You go further, and then you restart, and then you invest points in upgrading your Doomslayer or the weapon, or buying perks for the weapon. And I was kind of impressed. I can't lie. It was pretty instantly grabbing. I was like, this is dangerous. This is like mobile game dangerous.
Yeah. So is it actually like it's roguelike in the sense that if you die or fail, you go back to just square one. You got your standard rocket again, and you build up again. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and like you'll pick up these. You'll get the pickups, which give you additional abilities. Like it'll make your bullets bounce between enemies, and then it'll make them fire out to the side. And as you unlock more weapons and you get more abilities like that, they just stack and stack. So good roguelike stuff, just implemented well into the Doom setting, I think. And it hit #1 in the iOS store and the Play Store earlier in the week, nice. Which is pretty amazing considering it just came out. And I think as well it shows kind of the credit that Doom does still hold. I know that sounds silly, like Doom being as big as it is, but I feel like there's kind of a sense that it's not quite in the top echelon of shooters when it comes to recognizability. Maybe not recognizability, but engagement. I don't know. It's never up there with like. I guess it's difficult. It's never up there with like Apex, for example, or Call of Duty.
Yeah,
I know they're competitive shooters, so I guess it depends on what criteria you're setting.
Yeah.
Because it probably is up there if you're going to see single player shooters, like Titanfall 2 would be up there. probably one of the Modern Warfare campaigns, probably Doom. Yeah. So
definitely.
yeah, it was good. Actually, maybe this is a good opportunity as well while we're on the topic of mobile for you to talk about Marvel Snap, Bray, if you've been playing it a little bit more. You mentioned it briefly last week, but
Yeah, no, I have been playing it a bit more. Yeah, it's the sort of game I boot up quite like a few times a day still. You know, because they got their daily challenges, which go towards like a weekly thing, and you know, you get your currency to spend on upgrading all your cards and stuff like that. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So the way that you unlock cards is quite odd in that game. So you essentially you upgrade your existing cards to make them like look cooler. So like for example, I have like Rocket, and he starts off just like a grey card. But I upgrade him and he gets like a green frame, and I upgrade him again and he becomes 3D. I upgrade him again and he becomes like animated and stuff like that. You know, you just make the card look cooler, and that in itself gives you points to like progress up this tree that gives you mystery cards, and that's how you get them. And these mystery cards, they're just random, but they're random within pools. So you've got like pool 1, which is level 1 to 200, pool 2, 200 to 350, that sort of thing. And then there's like 200 cards in pool 1, 200 in pool 2, and when you get a mystery card, you can get any of those like 200 from pool 1, you know.
Okay.
Stuff like that. So everyone gets different cards at a different time, you know. You might not get Scarlet Witch where I got Scarlet Witch, you know, stuff like that. So it is random, in a sense. I've just got to the second pool of cards, which is quite cool because there's some pretty nifty ones in there that could make some quite unique decks. And yeah, man, I'm having a good time with it. I've made like a discard, like destroy deck. One of the main cards in there is like Carnage. Yeah, no, it's just good, man. I'm still having a good time with it. And yeah, it's a perfect little game to play, and it's perfect because the matches last no more than like 3 minutes. They're literally like 2 to 3 minutes. The matches, so it's perfect to just whip out like really quickly. You know, it's not time consuming at all. Yeah, it's great. Still having a good time with it. We're mobile gamers now. It's been a long time since I've enjoyed a mobile game. I have to admit, we've always said we're not mobile gamers. I like really, like, I only played games on my phone when I was like in school and stuff like that. But yeah, this is the first one for a while that I've enjoyed. First one since Hearthstone, really.
Yeah. Something to be said about the about being card games on mobile. It just kind of works, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just like strategy games. Yeah, all kind of card games, like XCOM games, like that sort of thing. But weirdly, I'm not a big fan of like RTS from like a Halo Wars, Age of Empires sort of standpoint. But I like a very specific type of like RTS and strategy. If they do that, then I'm a big fan.
Which is weird because I think arguably strategy games work better on a touchscreen, right, than a controller even.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all those sort of games like or maybe not Slay the Spire and stuff like that, but yeah, card games and strategy games, yeah, they work better when you don't have a load of buttons doing different things. You know, it's all on the screen. You just tap, blah blah blah. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's yeah, I'm still having fun with it. Where that seems to wear off, I don't know. But again, I don't feel like I'm being forced or having my arm twisted in any way to actually buy anything as well, which is nice. Yeah, it's good.
Which is highly surprising because it being Marvel, they could have, and Disney, they could have very easily, crammed it.
Yeah, I mean, they do. They are there. You can get like cool variants of your cards to make them look like way different, like different artwork for like Wolverine and stuff like that. And they do look really sick, a few of them. But like, it's just completely optional and it's all cosmetic. Nothing really jumps you up ahead of the game in terms of like having a better deck or anything like that, which is not what Hearthstone does. Hearthstone, you have to buy to get the current deck or the meta decks or the meta cards. So yeah, it's a nice change. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, I guess kind of on the while we're on the talking about Hearthstone a little bit, is my failed attempt at doing a segue.
Segue
Diablo 4 as an open beta this week, didn't it? And neither of us have played it, to my knowledge. I've got it there installed, but we've had this this whole
packed
internal, like problem. It's like a dilemma of playing a beta, and we all know this as gamers. We all know the feeling when you play a beta and then it goes away, and you have to figure out what to do with your life for the rest of for the 2 months until it comes out or whatever. And that's what I'm scared of. So I'm debating if I should even boot it up, because obviously we're all hearing amazing things. We're big Diablo fans, and the only thing that's pulling me to open it, Tim, is to get a sense for what class I want to play when the game comes out.
yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I think I know. We discussed this the other night. I mean, you would always pick between like sorcerer or like necromancer. You were never going to go barbarian or rogue or anything like that. Let's be honest.
I don't know. I was thinking about it as well, but like I quite like what they've done with barbarian in this game. That they've made it like you can have more than one weapon. I think I don't know how that works, but that's what I read. That you have like you can like swap between primary weapons like on the go, rather than just being like big meathead who is a bit of a tank. Like you have more versatility because you carry multiple weapons, which I think is kind of cool.
Also heard they're kind of dumpy at the moment. I think they've already actually given them a buff in the beta, I think.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I don't doubt that they have a whole service model worked out for that game, or even already,
Yeah. But yeah, no, it looks amazing. Like looks amazing as well. Like graphically, that game looks phenomenal for like this kind of style it is. Yeah, it's like so hyper detailed. And it looks like it plays really smooth as well, like just buttery smooth, and like the animations and effects on all like the moves and stuff like that. Like I remember seeing one in particular from like the barbarian, which is like that like fire like snake move. And when someone used that, it just looks so like crispy and like fluid.
The effects look good,
looks so good.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, I'm really excited. I kind of really want to play it as well, but then it's like 3 months off from like this date. And that's also my stomach. Sorry about that if you heard that.
I thought it was a motorbike. I thought that was a motorbike going past.
That was my stomach. I haven't really eaten much today.
I'm so sorry.
So, but yeah, no, it looks excellent. And I really want to play it. And I think I will probably play Rogue when it comes out. I think, but I'm not sure. Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, I'm in some of the small stuff that I've seen, and it's no different from what I'd seen, what we saw even like a year ago, or even at the showcase. I think Diablo 4 was at the showcase, wasn't it? The Xbox showcase where they announced the release date. All the stuff there looks super impressive, and like again, like the whole with how it looks, kind of like graphically. I'm kind of like, why does it look? It does not need to look that good, but it does. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like. Because of the camera angle, like the bird's eye view kind of thing. It's like it does not need to look this good, but it does.
Yeah, it looks insane. Yeah.
And then you throw in kind of the co-op, and it's like kind of a shared world, a bit more of a shared world, isn't it? Than Diablo 3 ever was. I think it's going to be. I mean, they're different genres, but I think it's going to be the first game that actually is going to give Destiny a run for its money in dethroning it as the shared world de facto experience. Considering that. Diablo 4 are probably going to do a similar model. They're going to have like big expansions with, dungeons and raids, maybe even, and you think about like kind of the possibility of all of that. Yeah, exactly. That's going to be huge and incredibly exciting. So,
on that note, though, I have heard that I think a few people have criticized them for the dungeons so far. Like,
really?
I think people have said that quite a lot of them feel quite samey, and they could change like the layout a lot and like. Just make them a bit more make the random generator like a bit better, a bit more diverse. I have heard that, and I think one of the developers or someone clapped back on Twitter and was just like, no, like we feel like they're actually like quite good. I don't know. There was like a little bit of like controversy behind that. I don't know if it was just beefed up like Twitter beef, but I have heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's quite funny, isn't it? I think there's a bit of a full circle thing here, especially thinking about the CMA. And I'm talking more personally, to the audience. But like we've always dabbled in. I don't. We've done more than dabble, but we've always kind of like been Blizzard fans. But it's only really it's coming to a head this year where there's like 2 or 3 different Blizzard games that we are going to be like maining, which is quite, we played a lot of Overwatch back in the day. We played a lot of Hearthstone back in the day as well. We played a lot of Diablo 3, right?
Yeah.
As well. And like, you think about how that is all coming to a head with Diablo 4 this year, and it's like, this is a really good time personally for Xbox to be acquiring Blizzard because
yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's so much.
This is a company that we both have actually quite a bit of a history with, and all of that's kind of coming to a head with Diablo 4. Not that it hasn't with Overwatch 2, but it's had its difficulties moving to a sequel, and we can go back and forth on why that's happened, whether it was the fuckery with Activision or whatever. But we still love Overwatch and Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
But we like Blizzard games, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
Turns out
we've got a pretty decent history with them. Like you said, we've only played a handful, but we played them a lot. Like
that's it.
Like we've really sunk a lot of hours into those Blizzard titles, and yeah, Diablo 4 is just like looking like it's going to be the best iteration of that series. Overwatch 2, yeah, some growing pains there, still great, like you said. And that new survival game they're working on is bound to be pretty phenomenal as well. I feel like that's what makes me not like I enjoy the genre, but I feel like Grounded is the one game of that genre I've enjoyed for a long time, the one I've enjoyed the most for quite a long time, and I think that's due to the polish it had. I feel like Ark, I feel like Valheim, I feel like all these games just lack that polish that I feel like, weirdly, I guess I've just come to expect in my games a little bit now. I don't know if I'm just a bit more of a snob in terms of my games, especially when this shit's reaching like 70 quid in terms of like money, or like a monthly subscription of like 10-15 quid. I want some polish to be behind my games, and I feel like Blizzard will deliver that with that survival game, and I feel like it's one that will probably hook me more than something like Valheim. So yeah,
definitely. I think you're right. It is like kind of a meme that a survival game had in like the last 5 years, maybe a bit longer, has been like the indie devs genre of choice for some reason. I don't know why. I guess but I think that's kind of what makes the genre quite exciting as well. There's a lot of, I think, untapped potential there. There's a lot of games have kind of recycled the same ideas. Arguably Grounded has been the first to kind of push it in a completely different direction. Like thematically, I guess in terms of the mechanics, it's kind of the same, but you can tell a lot of thought has gone into the hook and the progression and the quality of life. Like so many survival games miss that quality of life, and I think that turns a lot of people off as well. Like they start it and they like the idea of like, whoa, I can explore this world with my friends, and I can beat up ladybugs or zombies or whatever the theme is. But then you get into the busy work of like, okay, that's fine, this is cool, I'm picking up all the wood and I'm contributing, but now I have to take this into my inventory, take it out of my inventory, put it into the chest, then take it out of the chest and put it into the crafting table, and then take it out of the and that wears on people.
Oh yeah. And then when shit goes wrong and like your base gets destroyed either by PvP or by like something else, then you lose the will to go on, because it was such a ball ache to get to that point, and you're like, for fuck's sake, we need to do that again. We need to collect all that fucking wood again. We need to do all the chest transfer shit. We need to do all the janky ass building again. And I just stop playing the game when something like that happens. I'm just like, I sunk like an enormous amount of time into building this base and getting it to where it was with my friends and everything like that. And I'm not going to lie, quite a lot of that probably wasn't that fun to me, but it was nice to get it to that point. And then when shit goes wrong, like that's what always turned me off Ark as well. Like people just fucking raided you while you're offline, and it's like, well, I guess I'm not playing this game anymore. It's really annoying. But yeah, it's stuff like that. It's the jank that just wears on you, like you said. Yeah, it wears you down.
and I think that's what makes the idea of a bit of a tangent here. Sorry, but I think it's kind of the idea of what makes this new IP from Blizzard quite exciting. That I don't think a big AAA dev has taken a proper swing at uh, the survival genre. You know, Obsidian with Grounded. I know Obsidian's a AAA dev, yeah, arguably, but you know, obviously we know it's a small team. It was a passion project which has been going on for years and years and years now. And yeah, so no doubt that it's something that we're going to enjoy as well. Yeah, and it's just, you know, coming full circle. It's just kind of funny because if you ask me, like, you know, who are your favorite devs, Blizzard wouldn't even cross my mind for some reason until like this year. Where I'm like, oh, actually, like with Diablo 4 on the horizon, the amount of Overwatch 2 I've played, like, yeah. And I think in terms of hours played, they've got to be in like the top 5. Like if I was just to categorize it by dev, you know. And I know Blizzard is 5 teams, but you understand the point.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely, I agree with you.
Lovely. All right, it's time for Redfall, baby. We did it.
You don't want to do the active Blizz stuff while we've been talking about Blizz, or you want to do Redfall now?
You're right. Let's do that. We're on the right. We're on the right frame of mind.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we did it.
Again, that's it. Moving on to Redfall.
Big W for the boys. Yeah, in a kind of unexpected turn, I think the CMA, the UK regulators, found that the ABK acquisition will not hurt competition. These are their provisional findings, with I think the final decision being made at the end of April. I want to say it was the 26th, but for some reason I don't have the exact date on my notes. Not that important, really. You know, and I think this has been a big pendulum swing. The whole thing has been a bit of a roller coaster. Where there was a one point where it seemed like it's not going through, and then the EU kind of loosened up by the sounds of it, I think a couple of weeks ago, and now the CMA have definitively said, you know, having reviewed everything, actually we kind of think this is going to be okay, provisionally. So unless there's something new that comes out in the next month. So before we get into kind of the weeds, what are the initial thoughts here, Tim?
Yeah, fucking finally, I guess is what comes
finally
comes to my mind immediately. Yeah, I feel like, you know, Xbox have really made a statement, I guess, leading up to this. I don't know if all of these deals that they've been making have been what's swaying this decision, you know, that we're so freely wanting to share, you know, Call of Duty with all these other players and in the business, and also cloud players as well. You know, when the argument was brought up that Xbox would be too dominant in the cloud space and stuff like that. So I don't know if any of that has actually helped, or if this decision is just made based off previous facts. I don't know if they're taking in like stuff that new into their decisions, if that makes sense. But
yeah. The answer is yeah, like in short. And we can go over kind of the bits and bobs around that in a couple of minutes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I don't know like the nitty gritty of all this stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I don't sit at my desk and read this. Like, I would rather blow my brains out. Like, I'm happy to read like a headline that's like, oh, okay, yeah, like CMA are looking to approve it, or it's doing this, but I don't read into the nitty gritty of like how it's all...
I do, and I do want to blow my brains out. So you're welcome.
You're doing God's work, man. So yeah, I guess I'll just let you sort of take away. Go.
Well, yeah, but before I did that, I just wanted to say when I messaged you about this about lunchtime earlier in the week. I think it was on Thursday or something, and I sent him a screenshot in all capitals, you know, from whoever it was, one of the outlets. Tim, it's happening. 30 minutes pass. All caps. Wait, what? in the same minute. Oh, please God, can it end?
I just don't want it anymore. Mainly because I just don't want to talk about it as well. Like, it's nice to get it under the belt and just be like, yeah, we have Blizzard, all this coming to Games Pass, blah blah blah. And yeah, what does that mean for the Diablo release as well?
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Right.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Haven't pre-orders gone live for Diablo and stuff? So again, that's going to be quite messy, even if it does move into Games Pass by the end of April. It's going to be quite messy. What do you think they're going to do with that, out of interest?
I think if they can, they will. I think if they can, they will. But I think if it gets to the point where they have to start, where it becomes a logistical nightmare, they'll just leave it and add it in 3 months' time, or they'll add some perk or something. They'll let the world know this is an Xbox IP now, motherfuckers. Without instantly casting it into Game Pass. But maybe there is a real sense of urgency because of Diablo, which I think you can kind of see the synergy there, right? This kind of idea that Diablo could be huge from mobile and cloud. Like I know I'd play Diablo on cloud.
Yeah, I think I would as well. Yeah,
a perfect game for it. Even give it some touch controls.
Apart from potentially the issue with, I always find with those sort of games, it's like reading the fucking loot and like the effects and stuff like that. I'd be like, oh, what is this? What does this sword do?
Yeah, like, plus 6%. What?
So that might be a bit iffy, but yeah, I mean the rest of it, just like strolling around casually, carrying out like a dungeon or doing like a world event or something like that, it just translates perfectly to just play on the go. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so not only that, obviously it's a huge game, huge history, a lot of recognizability and engagement, and it seems like it's shaping up to be kind of the best one. From what I've seen from the outside, it's kind of ticking all the boxes for all the right people in terms of Diablo 2's tone, but Diablo 3's systems, quality of life, etc., which is exactly what everybody wants. So maybe there is some feeling that maybe we will actually just put this through, even if the deal only closes 10 days before 10 days before the release. Fuck it, we're just gonna announce it right now. If you've got pre-orders, cancel them. Just sort of thing, obviously you still want to buy it and get the all those sorts of things. You can still do it. Or maybe they'll even just send everyone a message and be like, hey, we noticed that you bought Diablo, follow this link if you want a refund on it because it's been added to Game Pass due to the acquisition.
Yeah, or they could probably just do it automatically on the back end. Everything's tied to an Xbox profile. They'll be able to see whether or not they have an active Game Pass subscription and when that subscription ends. So they can just be like, yeah, we've seen that you pre-ordered this. Your subscription is till September or whatever. So we've just gone ahead and refunded you. Play it with Game Pass, Like, there won't be any user input sort of thing, Maybe they'll do it like that, which would be, obviously, the perfect world, but no, it'll probably be like, yeah, just do that, follow a link or something. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with it. I think that's kind of my biggest question leading into this, with it looking like it's going to sway more to Xbox now, is exactly what's going to happen with Diablo. Like, hopefully they just bin the PS5 version. Okay. Obviously,
I love how you just threaded that into the sentence, like there's nothing even wrong with it.
Yeah. Imagine, like, on the day, it's like an Xbox own actress, the fucking gavel like goes down, and Phil Spencer's like, we're scrapping the PS5 version.
Yeah, it's like when it's like when the president or prime minister does like a national announcement, and Phil Spencer's like, it just cuts to him, and you just see the top of his head like.
Yeah.
No PS5 version. It's gone. End the stream. Just goes mad with power.
Yeah.
So I mean, and this is the flip side of it, right? So there are lots of very interesting angles to this. So the first angle being, you may remember, the general manager of Diablo 4. I think he's like lead designer. No, maybe lead director now. Is Rod Ferguson. Oh, you recognize that name? Rod Ferguson used to be the lead in Gears of War, and he was the lead in Gears of War for like 10 years. He left like 2 years ago. He's a known big Diablo fan, so I'm sure it's a dream job for him. But like, you can't help but think Phil's still got his number, So that's the first angle. The second angle is that they actually did put out an official tweet. Maybe last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, from Rod himself, saying, we've been getting some questions about Diablo 4 on Game Pass, and I want to let you know that we have no plans for that.
Yes.
So,
but they're going to say
this isn't the first. Yes, right. This isn't the first time that we've seen a big game actively deny it because they get the sense in their data that people are holding back waiting for a Game Pass announcement. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't also surprise me if some Activision suit was like, look, can you get on Twitter and just tell everyone it's not happening? It doesn't matter if it is or not, just say no. So that, so that people place pre-orders and the shareholders are happy, because I can't upset the shareholders.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Hell will freeze over.
It's true.
So it's a really hard call. Because like you said, like at the same time, like if I buy it and then they do just and then the deal goes through like a week later, and then they arbitrarily wait, a month until they get it on Game Pass.
Yeah,
I guess,
that
do you know what,
pissed me
maybe,
off.
yeah, right. And do you know what, maybe it might be important to actually have a look at like when the Bethesda deal closed and when all of their games went onto Game Pass. I don't know the gap.
I think it was pretty quick.
I thought it was as well, but did they not? Did they
like,
wait for the showcase?
I don't think so. I think it was like pretty much instantaneous. Like they were just like, it's all coming, because there weren't any new games being developed or anything new that was released at the time. So they were literally just like every Bethesda game is just it's here now. I think.
I'm just gonna figure this out. Keep going.
Yeah,
you're doing great.
But yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting one. I think we've touched on this topic in a previous episode as well. Where I feel like if they're going to do that, they kind of have to commit it to like a year before it comes on Games Pass, right? Because then at that point, I'm not really going to be too salty. I'm just going to be like, sure, Diablo 4 is now on Games Pass, and yes, I spent £70 on it, but I've also been playing it for the past year, so it's not really a big deal. That £70 is worth it to get a year's playtime ahead of it coming on Games Pass. But yeah, it feels like a month or two, I'd just be like, that's really shitty. Or like, I'd try and get a refund, if I'm honest. I'd probably contact them and just be like, as a consumer, I didn't know this was going to happen. I want my £70 back. I think this is kind of a bit absurd. Especially with like other games coming out and stuff like that. That's kind of the thing. Like, there's other stuff to play. So like, what's going through my head is, do we wait? It depends how juicy the pre-order bonuses are, I guess. I mean, pre-order bonuses have never been... It's never really got me, to be honest. I never really... I don't really give a shit that Link has an alternate costume if I pre-order Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy to sort of wait and just see what's going to happen, and then just buy it 70 quid from the store after it's released if I need to, Hi, Timmer.
For sure.
Timmer says the ZeniMax deal closed in March 2021.
He's so fucking good, isn't he?
He said that before he said hi. He said hi afterwards.
Okay, so let me beat him to the punch before he gets the date, before he actually gets the dates in. So God. the deal closed on the 9th of March.
Yes.
2021. Then the games were announced to be coming the next day on the 11th of March. So that they came out.
Yeah, so it was like
instantaneous. On the 12th.
Yeah,
it was like instantaneous. So that kind of makes me think, maybe it's gonna happen. Of course, they didn't find themselves in the same position that Diablo's in, with something releasing.
Massive blockbuster just a couple of months from release.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's a completely different scenario. I think they've just got to accept the timing's a bit off, and I think they just put it on Games Pass a year later. I think that's probably what they got to do. Especially as Xbox are very much in the market of currently we're for the gamers, all this sort of stuff. I feel like it's a bit clunky. The time frame just doesn't add up. I feel like they've just got to do it as a pre-order thing.
So hang on. So do you think it's preferable for them to just hold out for a year rather than to do like an upgrade, to like figure out some logistic upgrade scheme?
I don't know.
For like a week later.
I mean, it is better. It's better if they. I guess it is better if they give it to us. But what I mean is, it's just going to create so much confusion, both on their end and the consumer end. And I feel like that could result in a lot of clapback from the community. Weirdly enough, even though they're adding it to Games Pass. I don't know. It's a really hard one to call. But. Yeah. So
here's another angle as well. Because I know a lot of people are going to be out there like, why do you care so much? Why don't you just buy the game? This whole thing about Xbox players not buying games. But games are expensive now, dude. Like, so, you know, I'm just looking after my wallet. Secondly, we can't, as it stands right now, we can't play games on cloud unless they're in Game Pass. Thirdly, the Xbox showcase is on June the 11th, which is 5 days after the launch of Diablo. There's so many. There's like it's like a singularity. You know, there's so many different factors swirling around in orbit here. Maybe they just surprise announce it during the showcase 5 days later. Or maybe they say, you know, we haven't been able to get it in game. Maybe they don't say that, but the implication is that they couldn't get into Game Pass that quickly. Oh, but you can now play your whole library on cloud, you know, like we promised. Well, I think they've said that they're gunning for that. So you can still play your bought version of Diablo on the go using our
Midnight Suns on the go.
That too. So yeah, it's a interesting little bean.
Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, the sort of crux of this story is it's swinging pretty heavily. I mean, it's essentially going to go through, right? You know, off the back of this announcement. Probably.
I don't see how it couldn't.
Yeah.
Now,
so like, you can essentially pop your champagne corks. You can, you know, we're pretty much at that finish line. So it's exciting. You know, there's a lot that comes with this, not just Blizzard. Obviously, we're excited about the Blizzard aspect of it most, but you know, there's a lot that comes with this with Call of Duty and stuff like that, and you know, all this stuff just benefits Xbox as a whole. You know, as a company, you know, they'll be able to put more money into other areas. You know, with all this extra Call of Duty monies. You know, and God forbid, you know, PlayStation might need to make a Killzone 5.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
They might need to make it good as well.
Yeah.
Oh no, Killzone 4? Killzone, I can't remember what the last Killzone was. I think it was
nobody remembers. I'm joking. Yeah, so we were going to come around to this and we went on a bit of a tangent, but like the reason for this, and I won't bore you to death with it, but you know, maybe listeners are kind of interested if you're not aware already. But essentially, the CMA felt that they received a significant amount of new evidence in response to its original provisional findings. Having considered this new evidence carefully, together with a wide range of information gathered from those provisional findings were issued, the CMA inquiry group has updated its provisional findings and reached the provisional conclusion that overall, the transaction will not result in a substantial lessening of competition in relation to console gaming in the UK. The most significant new evidence provided to the CMA relates to Microsoft's financial incentives to make Activision games, including Call of Duty, exclusive to its own consoles. While the CMA's original analysis indicated that this strategy would be profitable under most scenarios, new data, which provides better insight into the actual purchasing behavior of COD gamers, indicates that the strategy would be significantly loss-making under any plausible scenario. On this basis, the updated analysis now shows that it would not be commercially beneficial for Microsoft to make COD exclusive to Xbox following the deal. Yes. Who fucking knew? Yeah. But the Microsoft will instead still have the incentive to continue making the game available on PlayStation.
Yeah, and they could release a really buggy version if they wanted to.
Yeah, isn't that ridiculous? So there was this there was this whole thing like last week about the CMA getting some of their calculations wrong. And Xbox sent them more documents. Hang on a minute, you fucked this up. I think we spoke about it. There's something like, we found that 15% of gamers would migrate over to Xbox if there was any foreclosure. And Xbox were like, I don't know, that sounds like way too much. We think it would only be 2 or 3%. And I think the CMA factored that in and essentially figured out that people are more loyal to their console. And that's the purchasing behavior they're now analyzing, that actually people will always tend to stick to their own console as their primary console as well. Yeah. You know, people might buy an Xbox in addition, but for the most part, they're not going to start buying all their games there. For lots of reasons. And but it's just kind of funny that it's taken this long to come to that conclusion. I mean, we could have told you that week one, and we're dumb as fuck. So
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of stuff I love on PlayStation, but I remain loyal to Xbox, and I always will. It's my primary console, and I'm sure it's the same with a lot of PlayStation users. Just because Call of Duty is out marketed or got a different label or something like that, some Blizzard games might become exclusive, Diablo, all that sort of stuff. Well, not exclusive, sorry, but like you can get them with subscription, that sort of thing. People are still like, PlayStation is the home of, Spider-Man, Marvel games, Wolverine moving forward, God of War, Horizon, Final Fantasy, all of these great IPs that come only with that platform. They're not just going to ditch just because Call of Duty fucking moves. They're not going to ditch that as their primary console. It's insane. Yeah.
Which seemed to be kind of what the CMA were getting wrong. They kind of got the sense that if COD was exclusive, which it won't be, that everybody might like sell their PS5 and just go to Xbox. Because Call of Duty is the primary thing they play. But there's a lot more than that. There's friends, there's ecosystem, there's trophies. There's a lot of things that tie you to
people don't throw that away.
Yeah.
And PlayStation do that, like trophies and like reward system better than Xbox. Yeah, 100%. It's so cool. Like they're like trophies, and then once you get all the trophies, you get like the platinum trophy. Like that's such a cool.
That's the only thing I prefer. Yeah, to be fair, I like that you get something.
Where Xbox, you can like dive into like 8 different sub menus and then see that someone's 100% in a game.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it'd be great. They need something to signify that someone's got a 100% for sure. I don't know how we're still having this conversation. Like we spoke about this years ago.
That stuff means like a lot. Like I think I'd go out of my way to try and 100% a game if it meant like I get like a cool like stamp on my profile, or like there's like a counter. Yeah. It's literally like right like on the face of my profile. There's like a counter that's just like, games like 100% in games.
Perfected games, or something like
people click on it and they're like, "Oh, he's perfected Midnight Suns," well, fucking loser. Who the fuck does that?
It would. I think it would definitely push me over the edge in some of those games where usually on like a normal playthrough I get like 80 or 90% through. I might be like, I might just push for that extra 10-20% because I can.
Yeah, it's like you got bragging rights that you did it on Elden Ring, but fuck me if I have to dive deep into the depths of your profile to figure out you've actually 100% in Elden Ring. It's insane. Like, and it's such a small thing as well, and it goes a long way. Like,
Agreed. Well, it does seem that they are on the back end having a lot of conversations about the UI and the dashboard and everything. Like there is some stuff going on. And I got that new search bar recently. Has it popped up for you? Like when you press Y on the dashboard, it's like
I don't know. If it has, I haven't noticed it. It's a fucking search bar.
Then probably not. I know it sounds so stupid, but it was quite good. I don't need to talk more about it, but it was quite good. Anyway, like the point is that there's dashboard stuff going on and then UI stuff going on. So hopefully it's in the pipe.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's talk about Redfall now. I want to talk about Redfall.
Hang on. We're not there yet.
Oh, fuck's sake.
We're really close. Really close.
Timmer says Redfall in all caps. He doesn't.
Carry on.
Just take the piss.
I was going to say, I can't see that. So, what was there? There was like one interesting thing I wanted to touch on. Is this bit? Oh, so that's right. So the final, in one of the things that they said in the final documents, or the provisional documents rather, is that they said that the partial, their take on how partial foreclosure is going to affect competition falls short of total foreclosure. So essentially, untangle the legal speak, they don't feel like any timed exclusivity is going to have the same impact as total exclusivity, which is like, duh. But it kind of sounds like they've loosened up on the idea of COD being able to make some stuff exclusive. I mean, we'll see how it all shakes out in the end. But in the same way that PlayStation is doing, it seems like CMA are saying, I mean, it would be impactful, but if you can make it, and because bearing in mind the stuff that they've just said here is based on the idea that Xbox are going to make it exclusive. which Xbox don't want to because they don't have an incentive to, because it would make them a lot less money. But they're saying that any timed exclusivity on any element of the game is also not going to then. So just thought that was kind of interesting how much of a backpedal that is. Like, so PlayStation must be. I mean, if I was a PlayStation shareholder, I would be making some phone calls.
You can argue that timed exclusivity done aggressively enough is essentially full exclusivity when you look at like Final Fantasy and stuff like that, right?
Yes, I mean, I'd agree, but that's not what they've reviewed here, unfortunately. I would love to see regulators break that down, though. That would be really interesting.
Because like, I essentially just see Final Fantasy as a full exclusive. Like, it just is. It's not timed exclusivity at this point.
Yeah,
we will never have 7 remake. Luckily,
I think it will come one day. I do believe that. But I think it's hurt the sales of it. Like, it's hurt the impact of it so much that most people won't care. Like, and to that point, you know, on like the curve of the data, it's like, this is no longer about you optimizing profits from one player base and then double dipping on the second player base. It's to the point of principle where it's like, it's not even about profits anymore, because the double dip you're going to get from Xbox is going to be so small because most people just really will not give a shit. And that's my problem with it, basically. And maybe when they're talking about this kind of new data stuff, it might have been, we haven't heard anything about it yet, but do you remember a couple of weeks back they were like, you're going to need to show us the last 4 years worth of exclusivity deals you made? PlayStation, you need to show us that. I wonder if this is that, or if we're yet to see that yet. I don't know.
I wonder if that will be made public. Be interesting.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know either, but maybe there was some backdoor stuff where they were like, "You've done what?"
Yeah. And then they're just like, you know what? We're just gonna let this one slide.
Yeah, this is.
But we can't. Yeah, we won't tell you about the shit you've been doing under the table. Or keep that between us.
You killed who?
Yeah. Phil Spencer's like, I've had many assassination attempts on me. I didn't want to bring this up, but so many people have tried to kill me from
and they're all wearing blue PlayStation hats. It's weird.
It's really, really weird.
All right, we did it, everyone. Congratulations. We made it. You know, I think the amount of podcasts that are going to talk about this, it's numbered, really. You know, and then at one day we'll be booting up the podcast and we'll say Blizzard's announced a new game, and that'll just be part of the show. We won't have to say any sort of pretext around any legal talk. Or, you know, it will just be.
Or there'll be the whole talk.
There's a new Xbox game coming up.
If the game doesn't do well, now Blizzard is under.
That's true. Xbox ruining Blizzard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's classic. That will never go away.
That is such classic. No. That's baked into our bones, our DNA. Actually, it's quite funny. I guess it's worth just getting this out of the way very, very quickly. There was a Senate finance hearing over in America, and they were talking about basically US competition, US corporate competition in Japan. And one of the senators said, quote, "I'm told that Sony controls a monopoly of 98% of the high-end game market, yet Japan's government has allowed Sony to engage in blatant anti-competitive conduct through exclusive deals and payments to game publishers." It's a bad time for that to be coming out, that skeleton to be coming out of the closet.
I knew God of War wasn't a 9, 10 out of 10. Fucking knew it.
Yeah, fuck. Just a bit funny. Obviously, they haven't included the Switch in this thing. They've called it the high-end game market because apparently the financial and legal world has now decided that these are different things. I guess maybe because of this Activision Blizzard case. I don't know.
Even though Switch is like fucking miles ahead of both of them.
Yes, exactly.
Makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, so big yikes from me there. Okay, and you know, I was thinking as well, when this is all over, I think our podcast will probably be shorter because we won't have to have this sort of 20, 30 minute fucking
our
section.
podcast will be over.
Yeah, what's the point anymore?
We'll just quit. We don't have to do it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Tim. I've got some B-roll footage for you to play. If you want to just like keep it on replay so at the top, and it's got a hyperlink for you there. I even put it in green. There's even like a green little dot for you there.
Yeah.
That's your color,
I
isn't it?
got
Green.
It's playing
like green.
already. I got it.
Do you prefer purple nowadays, or do you still prefer green?
What? Oh no, green's still my favorite color. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
all right.
playing,
well, speaking of green, that's the color of the impressions that have been given to Redfall.
Nice. And that's why he's the king.
That's why I'm the fucking king, guys. Bring me your bread. I will decide what happens with it. So, I'm going to quote a couple of things that have come from the impressions. There were like, I don't have a firm number, and I don't think Bethesda or Arcane have given a firm number of how many outlets came. But, this was like a month ago where people went down to play the game for 90 minutes by the sounds of it. And from what I've seen, there seems to have been like 30, maybe more, maybe 40 outlets. And just to grab some quotes, courtesy of Clobbrill, who's done a nice little summary on his Twitter. The minute-to-minute gunplay is phenomenal. At its core are design ideas that have enabled memorable exploration and narrative. Redfall is shaping up to be the studio's strongest shooter to date. A compelling mix of Dishonored, Borderlands, and Buffy.
Wow, dude. How much he paid to get to say that?
Thank God, eh?
All right. God. Thank God money can buy you this sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And I'm gonna keep it real with all of you here. There were a couple of negative impressions. I would say 2, and maybe 1 or 2 mixed. Felt a bit lukewarm. But I would say 95% of these impressions are not just positive, but very positive.
Glowing.
Yeah. We've had a couple, VGC in particular, like I think Clobberell hasn't included some of the ones that have stuck out in my head, but VGC said Redfall is shaping up to be an utterly engrossing single-player experience. That's not even including co-op. None of these guys who did the impressions got to play co-op. They all were forced to play single-player.
Yes.
God is a Geek said it's a serious Game of the Year contender, which, I've very conveniently taken and put in the thumbnail.
As you would.
Yep, absolutely. So you talk to me, Tim. How are we feeling about these impressions going live? How you're feeling about the impressions, and also if you've seen any reactions on the internet to these impressions. Give me thoughts.
Yeah. So I mean, the first thing I said to you, weirdly enough, was when these reviews came out and they were positive, I weirdly felt like there was like a weight lifted off my shoulders, and I think I even messaged you and I was like, you'd think I like work for Arcane or something, but like I don't know, I just feel like it's just nice to see, and I think it's because one, I know that Arcane are a very talented developer. They get dealt a shorthand quite a lot in terms of their sales and stuff like that, so again, who knows how much this is going to impact their sales. This game still might be a pretty lukewarm sort of reception. Although it dropping into Games Pass, I think it's going to be probably their highest number game ever. Like I think there's no doubt that it's going to do that. But yeah, man, I was just overly just very happy just to see it received very well, because this is the sort of game that personally, from our perspectives, it's just got us written all over it. It's the type of game we like to play. It sort of blends that sort of co-op shooter, sort of quite fun open world sort of stuff together, which is exactly what we like to play. When I hop on my Xbox, 90% of the time I'm playing with friends. I'm not playing solo. So it's nice to see a game like this be received well. And I think it was very bold of them to introduce this game and people's first like proper hands-on with it with just the single player. I think that was quite a bold move of them. And I think a lot of the reviews, even though they were glowing, they did say, I did see a few of them say that it was lacking that something, which they did confidently say that something will be filled with that extra player. I still think this game isn't beat for beat a single player game, and you shouldn't take it like that. Um, but it was very, it was very confident of them to introduce it first as a single player game.
Yeah.
And it worked out for them. It's glowingly positive, and I feel like the game's only going to get more positive when people play it with friends and figure out and combine all these skills together and play styles together and stuff like that. Yeah, really, really happy for it.
Yeah, and it was definitely funny. We definitely had some funny conversations about it. Because, yeah, like you say, Arcane are a bit of an underdog in a weird way. We on the fucking gaming podcast world, yeah, of course, we're all familiar with what they are, but like as soon as you start getting outside of that, they from the outside they just kind of look like clunky shooters. You see them in a video and you're like, this kind of looks like Borderlands but worse, or like it looks like Destiny but like just a bit generic. Well, Back for Blood, in it, yeah. So you kind of there's a bit of an underdog effect there, I think, and also like there's a bit of a there's just a bit of validation because we've said all the way through. I always say like Arcane games never look good. They never look good. They just don't. Unless you kind of have a sense for what they are. But even I think there were a lot of people coming away in their impressions who were saying they had a good time, but the words they wrote didn't really convey, I think, what the games are about. I don't know, but I think part of it is understandable because I do think this is actually a bit more of a unique game than maybe even we're giving it credit for, in the sense that because even when we were trying to discuss it, we were like, oh, like the loot systems and what that's like, and I saw depending on whose YouTube channel you go on, some of the comments are mostly positive now, but there's definitely some trepidation still. We're like, oh, it doesn't look like there's much of an end game.
Yeah,
this isn't an endless looter, like,
which is
do
what
you know what I mean? So
funnily enough,
yeah,
as well.
right. And I think that's totally fair. I think that's a totally fair interpretation of what you're seeing here, because it's mashing together elements in a few ways. And I think one of the biggest things that makes me confident that this is going to do pretty well critically is that almost everyone came away like, oh, this still feels like an arcade game.
Yeah.
And that means it still has kind of that immersive siminess. It has that systemic kind of like synergy of tools and equipment and environment and AI, etc. And that's its primary thing. Okay, there's a loop there to kind of push you along and like encourage you to explore the open world in a way that Dishonored didn't have to do, because it's not really an open world. Yeah, okay, there's co-op in a way that maybe these other ones aren't. So it feels quite validating for a lot of people to come away and be like, this feels pretty good actually. And also for the gunplay, right? A lot of people were like, the gunplay is a big step up. Most people were. There were some people who were a bit less enthused, and I noticed that those people were mostly PC gamers who maybe aren't used to playing on controller. But most people came away like, the gunplay feels really good. And I think, was it VGC? Whose quote have I taken here? Somebody said
I think
that it feels comparable to Destiny 2.
Yeah. And you're going to use that one. Yeah. No, yeah, it does. Yeah. It looks good, man. It looks like Deathloop. Maybe even a little bit better. It looks like quite fun to play. I mean, this gameplay doesn't do it justice. It's your classic fucking E3 sort of trailer. People are like hip firing and it's jank. I don't know why they don't get more skilled gamers to play this. Like there's a lot of like missed shots and stuff like that, and he looks weirdly clunky with his sensitivity. But
yeah,
I'm pretty confident this is going to be as good as Deathloop, if not a little bit better. And that's a pretty nice feeling shooter. And yeah, to compare it to something like Destiny is pretty wild to me, because like, if there's one thing Destiny has, it's that satisfying gameplay, like minute to minute gameplay, and the shooting just feels pretty phenomenal. So yeah, to see it compared to that is very exciting, definitely.
Yeah, and I like, obviously that's coming from the input from Mission Games and id. Not that they're always involved with our games to a degree. Like I think they've said with every game that they've helped out, but I guess every time they make a new game, it kind of gets added and added, and it feels like it's maybe reached that place now where it's especially being maybe a bit more action orientated. The difference is felt. But at the same time, I do think this is just kind of that thing of like, I still think a lot of people are going to, especially now that it's going to be more accessible than ever on Game Pass, a lot of people are going to go into this and just be dead confused. Because a lot of these types of games are kind of creeping around and looking for a lockpick, looking for what's in this room. Whoa, there's like, a knife in the table, and there's a corpse, it's kind of that environmental storytelling. And there's a safe actually in the other room, but there's a vampire creeping through the house. So we need to kind of figure out how to navigate. So I feel like a lot of this isn't like Borderlands where you're just running from gun engagement to gun engagement, or a Doom shooter.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think a lot of people are going to be like, why is this so boring and slow? And it's like, it's just not that kind of game. And that's not for you, and that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I did get the sense that some of these previews, even though they had a good time, did feel that way, who maybe weren't familiar with the Arcane formula. Which I just thought was kind of interesting. Because even in this gameplay, it kind of highlights it, creeping from point to point, and then there's a bit of an encounter and this, that, and the other.
Yeah. One thing I remember hearing as well was people were saying that the atmosphere was actually like a lot spookier than they thought it was going to be.
Top notch.
Yeah. Like there was literally like this game like low key is like subgenre like horror. Like it's actually kind of like kind of spooky. So that was quite interesting to me. I definitely wasn't expecting it to go that way. I know we've seen people creep through like dark houses and stuff like that. But I think it'll be quite interesting to have that sort of blend of like some jump scares and some pop outs and some pretty like just eerie like storytelling a little bit. It could be kind of cool just to be like, oh, this guy turned and he murdered his family and kids, and then like this like they're all vampires and stuff like that, and then like maybe you find him like up in the attic because he locks himself away or something like that. Just some like environmental storytelling like that. That can make like quite a sort of creepy, eerie sort of story pieced together.
And I think the game will be full of that. And that's what kind of scares me about, like, even though I'm glad the game stands on its own two legs as a single player game, because I do worry that some of that will be lost unless you're playing it in a particular way with co-op friends. This is why I'm like, I kind of just want to play this with you. I feel like a 2-player might hit the sweet spot. I'm a bit worried about going into 3-player and 4-player territory.
Like, Caden, our resident speedrunner, would be infuriating. Yeah,
but he wouldn't enjoy it either. That's what I mean. But like, it wouldn't be enjoyable to just start through a game like this. You'd be like, yeah, it's an okay shooter. It's a bit empty, I guess. Do you know what I mean? The loot's okay. You just come away with a really lukewarm feeling because that isn't what the game is about.
Yeah,
that's part of the experience, but it's not the core of it.
I feel like I feel like a couple of our friends would be like that. I feel like we could possibly play this with Jake, because I think Jake likes arcane games. He's like Dishonored, and I think he played. Pardon me. I think he played Prey as well.
I don't think he's ever played Dishonored. I think he's played Prey a little bit, and he quite liked it. I don't think he played much of it.
I think he would quite enjoy this, but yeah, I hard agree that 50% of our friend group will not be hooked on this. They need, I think they need more in your face stimulation, action sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how that lands with them from like our perspective as well. But yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I like, while we're on the topic of kind of atmosphere, I came away from a lot of the previews, like really talked about how pretty it was, and like the direction and some of the like kind of set pieces. And I was like, yeah, because like, again, it's this kind of like, again, when you're watching it kind of compressed at 720 or 1080, like, especially these sorts of games, you can tell they're not hyper detailed, and a lot of people have just come away from it. It looks like a 360 game. But again, like when I played Deathloop versus when I saw Deathloop versus when I played Deathloop, I was like, this game's actually quite pretty. I was like quite surprised. I
think Redfall looks pretty. Like I think it has its own style and stuff like that. And I think like the particle effects look great on all of the like kill animations and the enemies and stuff like that. I think it looks really nice. Yeah. Like 100%.
I agree.
Like I don't think this is a bad looking game at all.
No, I totally agree, and I definitely think more than anything, like the direction in some of these shots is really nice. There's like some of them, there's like a forest with like purple smoke and a vampire in the middle of it. Other ones, there's like some of these like interiors are like really gothic, and the lighting is like really wobbly. Just things like that where I think it feels quite organic and quite alive in a way that maybe it's hard to convey when you're just seeing snippets of gameplay here and there. But a lot of the previews were like, this was really pretty, and going through the place was really nice. So
Yeah.
that was really nice to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else, because there were a couple of like negatives I wanted to speak about. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was really obviously a positive that previews were saying. Because I feel like most of the B-roll we got, because so people weren't able to record their own footage, if that wasn't obvious already. So the B-roll we're playing in the background right now is what all the all the YouTubers and outlets were given to show.
Yeah.
And like in pretty much all of it, people are just playing Devinder. And I think there was some like mixed reaction, even in the positive ones, to how Devinder played. A lot of people, I think a lot of people felt he was quite boring, but a lot of people felt he was quite good. And
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely got the sense that a lot of people said. I mean, they got to pick the players. They didn't all have to play Devinder. It's just this stock footage is all him.
yes,
Like some people did play. I watched a YouTuber that played the Invisible Crowman, whatever his name is.
Jacob.
Yeah, and they said he was really cool. All his weapons were like silenced and stuff like that, which was quite cool. And his like ultimate was like, the ability to like lock on to like loads of people and then just like auto headshot everything and like take stuff out quietly.
Yeah.
And then some people got to play whatever her name is, the magical lady.
Layla,
and they thought she was pretty cool with that extra like verticality and stuff like that, although weirdly some people didn't think some of those abilities would be useful.
Yeah, that was weird.
So yeah, no, it was definitely it's weird that they only chose to show this stock footage as well, because I feel like from what I could gather, people preferred the characters that had some form of like mobility and some form of like traversal that didn't keep you grounded. Which someone did say that this guy did have, because you have the teleporter thing that you can throw, which people said is actually most comparable to the blink in Dishonored, which is obviously really useful for these sort of games for like alternate routes and approaching objectives in different ways.
Absolutely.
It'd be interesting to see if that could be like upgraded to a sense where like if people stand near you when you throw that and teleport, it can like teleport like the whole group or something like that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because I feel as much as I want to play the Crowman or the is this the guy that has the robot as well? No, it's not.
That's Remy. Remy is the robot.
As much as I want to play like those guys, they have no form of mobility. And I feel like that is a bit of like that's a bit of a shame for a game like this. So which I think again is what will make co-op better than single player, is the fact that you can play these characters that you want to pick and you can play with people that can still get you up high or can still get you to alternate destinations and stuff like that. I feel like co-op will always take this game to the next level, personally.
Yeah, so, agreed. Yeah. And then like it's quite funny because with the Remy kind of looks like the support character, but there's even in this B-roll they have a thing of it as well, and I think it's one of her nodes on her RPG trees, which we shouldn't forget. These characters have a lot of RPG trees, with and I think that's kind of the incentive to go out and do side missions, to go in and help friends and stuff like that, is that you can level your character up more. But one of the trees for Remy was that she could throw her C4, which sticks to stuff, by the way, walls and enemies. And if she's in the radius of it, she can like blow herself back with the concussion. And like even in the gameplay, they do it here. She throws it to someone, and then she blows herself up to the second floor. So I was like, that gives her, even though it's loud, it gives her a nice bit of like mobility. So hopefully, there's more stuff like that. I think that the impression I got from the previews that it was a little bit disappointing. Like having a look at some of the nodes, that a lot of it was like kind of changes here and there, and nothing massive. I mean, it's it depends because like I said, the impression I got was that most people played Devinder, and most people for some reason got the sense that there was nothing like big there. But maybe it was hard to get a sense of what would be actually game changing. So again, we'll have to see. I'm just going on what people said.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there were some other things as well, Tim. Like when we've spoken about Redfall before, I remember this all in my mind because we've spoken about this on the podcast a loads of times. But like, for example, some people said, "Oh, we were disappointed with like the lack of customization," but it's since been like Harvey Smith, the lead designer, has said that you can actually find different costumes out in the world. Yeah. Obviously, there's no store, there's no microtransactions, but you can find that, and that's news to me. I haven't seen that before. And we also know the other big element of kind of expression with these guns is the stakes, which like are their own category of loot, and I think that's like a big part of the customization there. But obviously, some people that were coming away like, "Oh, I wish these guns had some customization," had forgotten that.
Yeah, but it's just to what level will that customize your gun? Like, how many stakes could there possibly be, and what different effects are they going to have? Like there that is quite a shallow layer of customization. It could literally just be sticking
cosmetic
wooden stake onto your gun, so you can stab things. It doesn't really go much deeper than that. But yeah, no, it definitely, that is something that I think does still need to be sort of answered a little bit more in terms of like loot. I feel is just like, exactly, can you put like a red dot sight in the gun? Can you like improve certain aspects of the gun, change the look of it maybe, or a paint job on it, or like like stakes and stuff like that? I think it'll be quite interesting to see just like what you can do with that sort of thing, because I know there is like a scrap mechanic in the game, and like you can pick up things and create like lock picks or like make ammo or something like that. They did mention something you can do with like scrap like in the world, so it'd be interesting to see how that feeds into like customization and stuff like that. So yeah,
it does seem like there is some resources, doesn't there? I think some of the previews mentioned that you could like, if you got enough resources, you could craft a like a lockpick, stuff like that.
Which again, people were people got upset about that. They were just like, it was really. Someone said that they found it really disappointing that you found a safe in a room, and you didn't have to look around the room to find the code for the safe and then input the code. They literally just clicked on the safe, and it was like, oh, you have 10 scrap, you can unlock this. It wasn't arcane-y in that aspect that they were hoping, which I guess is they don't want it to be too slow and too methodical, so they have removed stuff like that, I guess. But it does beg the question of like at this point, like, are you going to appease arcane fans, or are you appeasing more mainstream fans, or is this just going to be like a weird in between that isn't really excellent in like either eyes, because you're taking stuff away that people love for an arcane game to replace it with something that will make it more commonly accepted. So it's just like you start to think, would this be like that weird kind of limbo game? They are playing with.
Yeah,
it's quite dangerous when you do that sort of thing.
Definitely, yeah. Like I'm totally with you. I think I do get the sense that, and I think I've said this before, that like, because it's co-op and it's built around co-op, I think there is some immersive simminess that's going to be lost. To what degree that is remains to be seen. As I say, most people have come away from these previews saying this is still arcane, this is still immersive simmy, which is great. That gives me the sense that they haven't lost that much, because like having someone get a code and then go into the menu and how that like affects the game state is probably a challenge. So instead, it's just like kind of a more of a resource gathering thing. Maybe you can share resources and there's more of a cooperative element there.
I do think it'd be kind of cool though, just to be like you just like upstairs and me downstairs, and you're like, oh, I found a safe, and I'm like, oh, I found a piece of paper down here. Try 2834, like something like that. It'd be kind of cool.
I don't doubt that there's still stuff in the game like that. I get the sense that there is still stuff in the game like that. I'd be really surprised if there wasn't. But I understand that there is that kind of a lockpick system here. For part of that as well. So, and also I've got up on my end, Tim, I've got I just quickly went to the gameplay deep dive from the developer direct, and I've just paused on the frame, where they bring up all the stakes, and the inventory is full of, so just like in the screenshot I'm looking at, they've got an inventory full of white stakes, white rarity, and when they hover over it, there's no stats equipped to it. It's just cosmetic.
Okay.
However, there is also like kind of a bottom bit that shows how many stakes they have in their inventory, but there's also a skin part as well. So there is sort of scope for customization in terms of skins and stakes. I don't think there is like a crafting level stat thing, and that's what I mean. I think it's like what you said. I don't think it's leaning fully into the kind of looter shooter. I think it is kind of going for its own blend. Which is interesting. Like you said, I think that's fair. But I think that's why a lot of people watch this or will try it for 10 minutes and be like, "This isn't what I expected," and therefore my brain isn't reacting how I thought it would.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they got a tough job, I think, with this game, Arcane. I think although it's very positive and that's a fantastic step in the right direction, we still have only seen a very small portion of the game. Everything comes into play with how long the game is and how diverse the missions will end up being and stuff like that. That's all still to come, and that could be received quite negatively. But this is definitely obviously a great start. But yeah, I do think they have their work cut out for them in the sense of they do have a loyal fan base that loves this type of game, and I do think they are gutting a lot, not all of it, but certain elements of that to make way for this co-op shooter that they want to sort of mass appeal and to do well on Games Pass and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can pull it off, but it's difficult. I think this is 100% their most ambitious project and probably their most difficult one to like balance. I think like they probably struggled really hard to like balance everything they want to put into this game and how it plays.
Yeah, I'm with you. So there was a quote I've got here from Rock Paper Shotgun, who also one of the many people who got to preview the game, and I got a real sense that this is one of the few outlets that really grasped what people are going to enjoy about this, and it isn't it being an action shooter, it isn't it being a looter shooter. It's kind of this idea of Arcane have spoken about this before, that like the immersive sim is, if you think about a Venn diagram, that the Arcane sort of game is the central circle, and then something like Dishonored is the overlap with stealth, and Prey is the overlap with physics, and then they would say, and Dishonored is the overlap with roguelite, and this is kind of the overlap instead with Far Cry. So it's how big is that overlap, and so the Rock Paper Shotgun said this: "I cannot describe to you how happy I was to see open windows or ledges or makeshift entrances to mask my movements, and how refreshing it was in an open world to be in the thick of an Arcane playground. They have an uncanny ability to guide your eyes and still make you feel clever in the process." And I think that's kind of the essence of what I mean. People trying to run through the front doors, dying over and over again, and be like, "Oh, whoa, you this shit." What kind of one banging with my ult? It's not really. And hopefully the game is kind of gentle with those players and kind of trying to ease them into like, this is how you need to navigate the world. There is expression in how you can take on these different scenarios, a lot of expression, but you need to think about things. Oh, look, there's a barrel over there. Like, can I use my elevator to like push that up into the air and make a big distraction? Or like, there's a fuse box. Can I bait some people over there and set that off and upset the vampires? And I think that's the sort of stuff we're going to be looking for, that's going to make the game really shine, hopefully.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's what I'm looking forward to most in this game, is how you approach all those scenarios and stuff like that. I hope that it's I don't think it will be to the extent of a very meticulously handcrafted Dishonored, because it is open world and they have had to make sacrifices. But I do hope that they do keep a lot of that, and I'm sure they will, because it's literally in their DNA. But interestingly enough, I did find that I was watching a video of someone at work that also reviewed this. I can't remember who it was, but they actually found that they were quite disappointed with the fact that they did manage to traverse onto the roof, or they did manage to go somewhere that they thought would be accessible. And they found there was actually no entrance point into the building, or they couldn't open up the windows and stuff like that. So like, yeah, obviously it's not quite as just see it go to it as probably Dishonored was, like 20 different ways you can get in and approach this. It probably isn't quite to that extent, but yeah, I hope they do definitely still keep that. And it sounds like they don't know to an extent.
I think I heard the same one you were talking about, and I guess like even in Dishonored there was still times where you go like one building wouldn't let you, like you can't get through into every building through the ceiling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think so that maybe it was just the preview that they played. They all had to do the same mission in this mansion that we see in the B-roll. But there's also this kind of interesting dynamic of like, because it's an open world, you can actually come at a house from any angle, rather than like Dishonored ones are like kind of you're valved in from one side, from north to south, and you can go around the outskirts and stuff, I suppose, but you're generally going through it from one way forward, and you find your own route from there, and verticality included. But yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it, that even after all of these impressions that we've watched and all this, like the last half an hour of conversation, that we still have quite a lot of questions of like how it's going to come together. And I think that's kind of part of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There's still so much to see. And exactly how that will be tailored into this package that they're trying to sell to us. This we promise it's still an Arcane game sort of thing. 100%. But undeniably, it's a great first step, and I'm glad it's done really well. And it's very positive so far. This is, we always say every time we see this game more that we're getting more and more excited, and this has definitely done that for me. This game was always a bit of a shoe-in for me anyway, but I'm definitely much more excited about this, to the point where we were even talking, we were like, we'd be pretty surprised if this game, gets below an 80 at this point, or gets below like an 8. We're sort of looking at like mid-80s, sort of based off this. It is my feel for it, my vibe going into it. And yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, I've definitely moved up, like, because before, with the amount of uncertainty around the internet, like I've always kind of looked at like how it looked, but I can't, people's negativity online for sure was coloring how I felt. And like I there was like a small part of me like, is this going to be a flop? But now I'm like, I don't think this is going to, like, at worst I think this is lukewarm.
And I saw quite a lot of positivity just around like community as well, like reading comments on like uploaded videos from like IGNs or like a YouTuber or something like that. And I saw a lot of like just comments, just like, I really wasn't sure about this game, but the way you talked about it and your experience with it, and from what I'm seeing of this B-roll, again, the B-roll is, it's fine. It's not anything too special, but they're like, I've really changed my opinion on this game. Like, it's actually pushed me in a different direction and stuff like that. Like, I saw that a lot.
I agree.
I saw that a lot from the community. So yeah, I think this is really sat well, this whole preview, from a community and an outlet standpoint, definitely.
Yeah, I'm with you. Two more things I wanted to touch on, because I know we're coming sort of up to time for you, and you probably want to move on to the final bit. Something somebody mentioned just on the offer. I'm surprised this wasn't on every preview, especially because the game went from having a lot of FUD around being compared to Back 4 Blood, and then it went from having a lot of FUD to being compared to Far Cry, on the basis of like, not on the merits of Far Cry, on just the negatives of Far Cry, which is like, I'm sure we can all agree, bloated, map game full of waypoints, pointless story, inconsequential world, not very dynamic.
Yeah.
And in all of these previews, I've got the sense that it ticks every one of those boxes in the right way, right. So the biggest example I can think of that someone mentioned, there's no waypoints. There's a compass up top you can see on the B-roll there, but you open the map and nothing is marked until you discover it. like, so you'll just see a big church in the distance. You'll be like, I'm going to go there. And then
Yeah.
maybe you speak to someone, you find someone who's been hiding there for like, 3 months, and that unlocks a story. And now that's part of the map,
Yeah.
which I thought was a really good sign. I was like, oh, this is a well-designed world then. I don't have to rely on a golden path. I just get to follow my nose, which is perfect.
Yeah,
It's what
it's
really
not get like like in those other games, get to a high point, hit a radio scanner, and then
Yes.
you've got 50 icons
That's
in the
not
fucking
it.
map. Yeah.
Yeah. You get like there are safe houses, I think they've called them, where you can, if you free them, you clear the vampires out. You can get some resources, and I think you can fast travel to them, and you can get some side quests there. But it's not like, oh, it unlocks 6 million points of interest in the area now. It's like, no, you still follow your nose. It's just those are rough.
It's not cluttered.
It's like sites of grace. Yeah,
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, that is good to hear. Yeah, because it's quite fatiguing sometimes in those Far Cry games and these Ubisoft games like Assassin's Creed, where it's just too much. Like you're just assaulted with map icons and go here, go here, go here, and it feels very handholdy. So no, yeah, it's definitely good to hear that it's not that. Yeah, discover it for yourself or don't at all. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and I think the final thing that we probably haven't touched on yet was probably, there was one, I would say, shared criticism across the previews, even all the positive ones, and that was the AI.
Yes.
Of the humans, the AI of the humans.
Kind of butts.
Which I think is interesting, because I was saying this to Tim, like in a lot of other, I feel like they're mostly the same in other arcane games, but the gameplay is maybe a bit slower, so, and the enemies are a bit tougher, so it kind of facilitates that. But here, obviously, you can just mow bods down. And something like Deathloop, I felt there was kind of a lore explanation for it. They were there just like continuously partying, and you were given this big toolkit of abilities to kind of work with, and you could get overwhelmed easily, but basically you could walk up to a group and dispatch with them however you wanted. And that was kind of, it allowed you to be creative and non-limiting in a way where Dishonored, you had a mana bar essentially, and that made it grounded and slower. So I mean, what are your thoughts on that criticism about the AI? Joaquin's here. Hi, Joaquin.
Hey, Joaquin. No, I kind of agree. The AI looked, but it looks really, really bad from a human's perspective. They looked dumb. They were wondering. Some of them in some of the clips you can see like genuinely like weren't even shooting at you. There was like moments that have passed and like they moved on to like another enemy after starting shooting someone, and the guy just stood there and like never shooted you. Never shot at you. And yeah, it didn't look great. A part of me is thinking maybe they dumped it down for the whole preview thing so people could just play and not worry about getting trashed, or like sometimes they do that, like because people who come to these events, they're not always the best gamers, some of them, so they do maybe make it really easy, or they played it on the easy mode, which I hope was the case, because Deathloop did struggle with this, and I get that there's this fine line between fun and it being annoying. You want to have fun with the game. You want to, especially like you said in Deathloop, you want to be creative with the way you kill people. You don't want to just be like, I'm going to try something really fun. Oh, that didn't work, and they all just mowed me down. You want to try it, and the consequences, even if it doesn't go that well, aren't exactly dire. It doesn't set you back 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes each time, because then you're just gonna do the same thing every time because you don't want to. You don't want to die, and they want you to be creative, basically. And yeah, it's a fine line, and I do think for a game like this, I don't think it's not going to be as creative as something like Deathloop in the way you dispatch people and the way you approach the stuff. So I do think they gotta make the AI bit. I mean, look, this B-roll clip right here. Did you fucking see that? The guy was literally just sprinting at him, doing nothing, that enemy. And he just shot him in the head twice. There was no reaction to him. He didn't put up his gun. He didn't get shot at. I do think with the fact that it's co-op, and the fact that it's not as wacky and it's not as bonkers as something like Deathloop, I do think you've got to make it a bit more difficult. I think you've got to fine tune that AI um and do that. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. But from what I saw, yeah, there needs to be improvement there, 100%.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting point. Yeah, because I always it would imagine. So this is the give and take. You like you said, it's kind of that fine line. Imagine someone going into Deathloop and they play it like COD. They pick their favorite assault rifle and they run from cover to cover and they just headshot everyone. The only move they use is the connective one, whatever that is. So just turn their single kills into multi kills. Can you imagine how fucking boring that would be? You'd hate Deathloop.
Yeah.
You get 5 hours in, you'd be like, this is the most boring thing I've ever played.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is like, if those AI were, if you're someone who's a bit more creative, takes their time and has kind of a bit more fun with it, if those AI were like heard you from a mile off,
always saw you,
they turn their corner and they saw the mine you put down. They go, "There's a mine there," and they shoot it, and they're like, "There's someone around," and now they're searching for you. Or they sidestep an ability that you throw out of them, and now your whole plan's out the window. That's kind of the balance that I think Arcane are playing with here. And like, yeah, I think you are right. Because that's scaled back here, the AI becomes a bit more emphasized in this game because it's more action orientated. And that's not to say, I think the vampire AI looks good. Like they do a lot. They do like juking. They go invisible. They have their own abilities where they pull you in. They slip into the environment. There's stuff like that. But I do agree. Some of these clips, there's just bod standing still, just firing their gun and not hitting. And like you said, maybe there's a degree of like the players were a higher level than they were meant to be. Which kind of took the pressure off. They had better gear, maybe. They were in an easier mode. We know there's different levels of difficulty, so maybe that's something that will help. Maybe this is a bit of an older build. This was already a month ago. Maybe this build was 2 months old as well. So by the time we get the game, there could be 4 months more work. Overall, this sort of thing doesn't take away from these sorts of games. I can't definitively say that with Redfall yet.
No.
It doesn't take it away from me. I understand when I'm looking at it objectively on a video, I can say, oh, look at that person who's not doing that thing. Fine. But when I'm going through a house and there's 5 cultists, 2 vampires, and a special vampire, that's not going to feel that way, because of the way that the encounter design is set up.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It does depend on the scenario, but I don't know, man. When I was watching these previews, like live and stuff like that, or like as soon as they came up, like I did notice that the humans look fucking dumb. Like it, like I noticed that. I noticed that. Yeah, it's true. I noticed that pretty quick. I do feel like it is a fine line, and it will be interesting to see just how everything flows when you play with multiple players and 4 players and stuff like that.
And the difficulty scales as well.
Yeah, the difficulty scales. But yeah, they just I need to see more. But from what I've seen, yes, improvement needs to be had.
But at the same time, right? Sorry, I know this is going on than it needs to, Tim. Just tell me if you need me to wrap this up.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Like this isn't a loot game. Like they don't want you to be. I guess it depends what we mean by difficulty, right? Like they don't want you to be peppering a boy for 2 clips before they go down. Like from all we've seen, none of these enemies are bullet spongy, which is great, and that's what makes this arcane-y. You can pop a boy in 1 headshot. In Dishonored, you can kill a guy by walking up to him and clicking the stick, which, by the way, that isn't in this game. A lot of previews were like, you can't crouch up to someone, and I was like, oh, that's a bit. I mean, I understand it, but it's something I definitely have to unlearn.
Yeah, that was a bit weird. You kind of just butt them with your gun. There's no like animation.
Yeah.
There's no like anything. Yeah. No stealth kill.
Which I guess kind of maybe Jacob has that as a perk in his tree, but I guess it makes sense for everyone else because you're not like, stealthy military boys in the same way like Colt was or Corvo was.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the thing. Yeah. Lost my train of thought a bit, but
yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. yeah, it's like I said, and I've said it a few times now. It is a fine line. You don't want it to be annoying. You don't want it to hamper your gameplay. You don't want to constantly be discovered. You don't want to constantly be um gunned down or like ducking in cover to recover your health or something like that. And you don't want to be unloading clips into people. Like, I totally get that. But just general improvements just on how they act, like when you're actually in a gunfight, maybe. Like, I don't mind the fact that they've got like a bit of tunnel vision, so you can sneak around them easier. Like, that sort of stuff actually feeds quite well into gameplay most of the time. Like when we played like the Sniper Elite game and stuff like that, I remember there was nothing more annoying than the fact that you could be discovered so fucking easily.
Yeah.
But just like when you're actively in combat, I'd like them to be a bit more proactive with the way they maybe like find cover, or like they actually shoot at you. They're not just standing in a fucking open field missing bullets on you. But yeah, we need to see more of it. For all we know, this could have been on beginner gameplay and an older build, so I'm not going to absolutely slag the game off for it. But it just that does go a long way, I think, a little bit.
And I think they said that they were in the tutorial zone essentially as well, for this preview. In terms of like the layout of the world, that this was essentially the tutorial part of the world. So again, might be that. Won't really know. But we'll have to see. Overall, really happy with the way all the previews have shaken out. Feel a lot better. Whereas before I wasn't sure. Now I'm like, I think this is going to be like high 70s or low 80s. I obviously hope it crosses the 80s barrier, because like Prey is currently sitting on 81 on OpenCritic, and that's an online darling game for most people. So I think I'm hoping it will get there at the very least. That would be really nice, and it will bode really well for the rest of the year for Xbox too.
Yeah, definitely.
So GG's. I think they said, a couple of outlets said as well, that they're gonna be given a code for co-op gameplay at some point in the next month. So
that's exciting.
See some more stuff there.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah. Okay. So the other part of, obviously, with all the things that happened with Redfall, was that with IGN France, of all people, Harvey Smith, again, the director, was interviewed. And he said, and this is the translation, by the way, so you have to forgive any translational error. We were acquired by Microsoft, and it was a change with a capital C. They came in and said, no PS5, we're focusing on Xbox, PC, and the Game Pass.
Oh my god.
Can you believe this shit? Can you believe that the new IP made by an Xbox first party is exclusive to Xbox?
I know, right? Yeah. It's crazy. I guess it's not so much the exclusivity that makes people the upset. Like, everyone knew that. It was the fact that there was a PlayStation version, and then it was canned. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing to be salty about. It's
well, it's interesting because we don't really know, like, I mean, that was quote for quote. They said it was a change with a capital C. Yeah, like, we don't know if it was like what was being developed for. Like, we don't really know. Does that make a difference to the argument? I don't know. I'm just pointing out kind of what the words were. But there is kind of this idea, isn't it, that if there was a change, it was cancelled. It was thrown in the bin.
Yeah.
PS5.jpg deleted.
But there's nothing. I don't know. There's nothing bad about that. Like, I don't get why people are hopping on Xbox's back about that. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like, bought the studio and it's a great game and we want it to be an exclusive. That shit happens all the time. Like, it shouldn't be gaslit so much. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
It's this whole thing, isn't it, that we keep speaking about, of like, but there was a napkin. There was a napkin that had the word vampires on it, and we found that in Harvey Smith's bin. And there was a little PS5 in the bottom. That means, you know what that means? That it was cancelled.
Yeah. A full version was cancelled. It was ready to go.
Just release it, would you? And of course, a lot of the outlets, like this, the worst thing is, and we didn't cover this before, but just the worst thing is this and the story about them working on an offline mode. I think you probably saw that as well, right?
Yeah.
Those two stories got more traction than the positive impressions.
That was everywhere. Yeah. I actually saw more articles, like, straight off the bat about the fact that Redfall were going to remove their online only component potentially in the future.
How fucking
more
irritating
than just
is that?
how positive it was. Which obviously is a positive bit of news, regardless. But like, why that's the forefront of all this is insane to me. Like, I don't, it's no sense to me.
No, it's absolutely crazy, and it's like instead of critically acclaimed dev who is never trusted with their games receives overwhelmingly positive impressions, it's they finally fixed their fucking mistake. They've seen the error of their ways, and they've allowed people in submarines to play Redfall. Thank God.
Yeah.
I thought none of you wanted to play Redfall. I thought you all said it looked shit. So what's the deal here?
Yeah, and then when everyone who hated Redfall and thought it looked shit anyway, they're all up in arms now. They figured out there was a potentially cancelled PS5 version as well. I would have loved to play this on my PS5. Unreal. So toxic from Philly Spence.
Crazy, man. The shit crazy. And as well, of course, a lot of the outlets really conveniently missed out the second part of the quote. Or the headlines were anyway. It's quote, "It's not very serious. It's even a good decision, I think. It helps to support Game Pass and have one less platform to worry about, one less complexity. Look, devs do not give a shit about your petty console war. Yes, okay, we run an Xbox podcast. We're mostly joking about the shit we say most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Like 95% of the time. The 5% is ambiguous and remains up to you to interpret when that is. And it's also like a legal disclaimer in case any slack comes our way. It's like an alibi. But like they don't care. They just want it's easier for them to just support for one platform and really optimize it. And we've said this before. This is one of the benefits of exclusivity. I understand that. I understand that from like a gamer perspective. If one platform is being developed for, it can really get loads of juice squeezed out of it. Something like Forza Horizon, something like Flight Sim, something like Horizon Forbidden West are all examples of that. Even God of War, all fantastic looking games.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you can fine tune something a lot better and spend more time ironing out all the kinks if you're just doing it for one platform. You don't need to split up the team, have a PlayStation team and Xbox team. You can just smash it all out. Pretty fine that most of the time it leads to an overall better product. So
hell yeah. All right, I think we're just about ready to move on from Redfall. Tim, are you anything else you wanted to touch on before we move on to a final bit for the day?
No, I think that's it. That's it from me.
Wonderful. I think I've said this to you before, but for some reason all of our Redfall videos perform really well.
They pop off.
Yeah.
You better share this, Joaquin, and tell me.
Yeah.
Maybe sharing this.
Share the video. I haven't said that, have we? You like the video? Share the video.
Yeah.
Give the video a back rub. Bring him in a cup of Joe, a cup of coffee. Buy a video. Buy a pizza. Buy a video. We need to wrap up.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, final story then. Like I said, nice lean episode today. Minecraft Legends, Tim. It seems like content creators and the press are getting flown out to play Minecraft Legends. And this wouldn't be, we don't have that much to say about it in and of itself, but I think this is now the second game. I don't know if this is just a post-COVID thing and I was ignorant to it before, or if this is this Xbox's new strategy of building up the marketing cycle of just flying people out, get them to hands-on with the game and let them write whatever they want when they get back and let that float in the public for a bit.
Oh, what kind of one it will be? Whether or not it will be, like they're allowed to say whatever they want, or if they have to kind of stick to a lot of stuff. Yeah, it'll be interesting. To see, but I'm interested to find out more about this game. I know nothing really about this game, aside from it's kind of like a cutesy sort of dumbed down RTS. I think I don't think it's going to be like a full scale sort of one, like an easily approachable sort of step into that genre. So yeah, I'm excited to see more of it, man. Hopefully it's quite positive.
It was, in essence, it kind of looked like a kiddie version of Age of Empires, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah,
like,
it's kind of like
there's an action element. because you ride around and you send mobs in and you build fun things in your empires, and there's like co-op, there's like a team deathmatch kind of mode to it, first team to like smack down the other's defenses,
which is cool. I think that'll be really fun.
It is cool,
and it's kind of like Minecraft Dungeons. It's like a kiddie dumbed down version of a Diablo game, like nothing wrong with that. It's just you appeal to a slightly more casual audience or someone who's never really approached that genre before, where most of the time they're not so shallow that there's nothing to do, but they're just not as deep as the other ones, but they have some pretty cool, unique mechanics, and it's cute. It's fun to play.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it'll probably be great to play on cloud and stuff like that, with it being more casual in that sense. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about this too. Hopefully we get impressions if the timescale for Redfall between playing and impressions went live. I think it was about 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks. So, and I think the game launches at like mid-April, end of April, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. It's like, I think it's like the 24th of April, I think. If I'm right.
18th.
Damn it.
Yeah, unlucky. Only 1 week off.
It's not good enough.
You gave it your best.
It's not good.
That's what counts. So yeah, hopefully we hear about that soon, and then a couple of weeks will go by, and then there'll be reviews. So yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, because really it's Minecraft Legends, and there's 2 weeks, and then it's Redfall. Basically, that's so. Hopefully, they both do quite well, and we'll go from there. It'll set the tone for the showcase in June, and the acquisition will go through. That'll be even more momentum. So yeah, that's it. We're done here.
Wow.
I feel like a real weight has been lifted off my shoulders, not just because of Redfall, but the ABK acquisition. I feel like
it's been a good week.
It's been a good week. Yeah.
It's been a great week. Yeah.
All right, boys, we're going to start jingling, and we're going to serenade you. Tim's going to serenade you with his cover of Fireworks by Katy Perry.
His baby on fire. No, that's it. That's what you get. And to be honest, that was pretty brave of me to even give you that. So you better thumbs up.
I loved it. We might have to get more than that. I might have to do this more often. Is that how easily you crumble under pressure?
We'll make like a Patreon, and if people pay money, then I will send you like a private video of me doing Katy Perry's Firework.
Legend.
But yeah, we really are jingling. So yeah, no, it's great to see
quick
you guys.
Shout
Timmer, Joaquin, yeah, legends.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the chat. Hopefully your neighbours have fixed their shit, Timmer. We were talking in DMs, but that's not a weird. I'm not like spying on him. I'm not being weird. We spoke in DMs. And Joaquin says he's mentioned us to other podcasts. Legend as always, Joaquin. I hope you have a great Sunday, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, have a good week, guys.